Okay, so what we're going to talk about is rational numbers on a number line. All right, and it's an inquiry lab today, so that's just meaning that it's not like our basic homework. Okay, so thank you those of you that are watching carefully. Okay, so we just talked about it, right? Rational numbers being fractions and decimals. Well, the main focus, you might see a little bit of decimals, but the main focus today, we're just going to focus in on fractions to start with. All right, so what I'd like you guys to do is grab your piece of paper, your piece of lined paper on your desk, all right? And we get to have a little fun, do a little origami. Okay, I call it, it's not really origami, we're folding paper. All right, so here we go. Take it and fold it in half hot dog ways, all right? Not hamburger, hot dog. Or for those of you that like to think of it as burrito, not taco, I've heard that one too, burrito. Yeah, I know, lunch is almost here. All right. So after we fold it in half, here's what I want you to do. Hot dog again. Okay. So here we go. You should have your paper looking just like this. Long, skinny fold, right? A couple of hot dog folds. Now here's what I want you to do next. Take it, and I want you to fold it hamburger ways. Fold it in half, hamburger style. And then take it hamburger one more time. All right, so as soon as you're done folding it, check it out, make sure it looks just like mine. God bless you. All right, so here's what I'd like you to do. Take your paper and then fold the hamburgers, but leave the hot dog. All right, so unfold the hamburger, but leave the hot dog. Okay. Now, once we unfold it, here's my first question. Okay, you could just say it out loud. How many sections do we have here? 4. We have 4 sections. Now, here's what we're going to do. Go ahead and grab your pencil, and I want you to build a number line across your hot dog folded paper. And here's what I'd like to talk about. Remember I talked about zooming in between 0 and 1? Well, that's what this is going to represent. This is going to represent a zoom in on our number line. So here's what I'd like you to do. Go ahead and go to the far left and put a line. That's where 0 is going to be. Hopefully we all remember what left is. Unfortunately, I had a class earlier that didn't know their left from their right. So hopefully that's not you guys. All right, here we go. Go ahead and go to the far right and place a 1 there. So there is that number line up there, but we're zoomed in to between 0 and 1. Okay, now let's stay basic right now. Okay. Go ahead, go to this little crease right here. Okay. Let's just talk. What is that spot? Most of you guys will know this. What is that spot? 0.5. 0.5. Let's talk about fractions, though. What is it? It's 1/2. Okay, it's 1/2, right? Halfway between 0 and 1. Okay. Now, what we have is we have 1/2. But what I want to focus on more is I want to focus on the folds that we have here. How many sections did we have again on the folds? 4 sections. Now, with the 4 sections, okay, and we're talking about fractions, how do we represent the 4 sections as fractions? What do we call these sections? Call them fourths. If they're fourths, okay, there's 4 sections, so they're called fourths. What's going to be our denominator, our bottom number? 4, right? So here's what I want you to do. Okay, I want you to label those 2 4s, but also I want you to go under 1/2, and we're going to actually put fourths there as well. So when it comes to fractions, if we start at 0, that would mean that we go 1 section over. What would be the numerator here? 1. 1/4. That's where the numerator comes from, right? It's 1 out of the 4 sections. However, what if we started at 0 and went 2 sections? What would this be? 2/4, right? Or, of course, the next one, what would be the third one over? 3/4. Now, I know this next line is 1, but if we were to write it as a fraction, we already had 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. What's this one? 4/4. That's why anytime you have a numerator the same as a denominator, it's always equal to 1. Let's go backwards. 4/4, 3/4, 2/4, 1/4. What's 0? 0 or 0/4. And that's why, of course, anything that has 0 as a numerator is always equal to 0. I do want to point out something. Look at 1/2 and 2/4. Does anyone know what those 2 fractions are called? Anyone remember from elementary school?
Equivalent fractions.
Whoa. Nicely done. I've had to tell all my other classes that. Equivalent fractions. So when you see, like when you reduce, you're going from 2/4 to 1/2. Or if you're having to add fractions and you need common denominators, you sometimes have to make the 1/2 into 2/4. But they're equivalent. Why? Because they're actually talking about the same line on the number line. Okay? It's just different amount of sections. That's all it is. You're just changing the way it looks. All right? Now, of course, this is a nice little review of elementary school, but of course, this is 7th grade, right? So here's what I want to do. We're actually going to extend this number line to the left, but we're going to have to use our imagination. We're going to, instead of putting a second piece of paper, let's go ahead and extend it and kind of go on the back side. All right, so go ahead. I'm going to use, if you have a little red line, you might want to use the red line on the back. It'll save us some time. I don't know how many of you have it. If you don't, go ahead and draw a line. Okay. Okay, now, remember on the positive side, this was 0. This line right here, we're just going to rewrite it. It's the same line. It's just we're using this one on this side. So that 0 is that 0 there. But now we're going left more. So basically, guys, we're going to the left side of the 0 on that number line. So here's 0. What's the next integer to the far left here? -1. So let's go ahead and label that -1. Okay, so when we get to the negative side, there are 2 things that are going to change, 2 main things that change on the left side that's different from the right side of 0, meaning different things from on the negative side compared to the positive side when it comes to integers. Okay, what are those 2 things? How is the left side different than the right side? Okay. There's probably the easiest one, right? They're all negatives. They're all going to have a negative sign right in front, okay? Now the second one, I would need a hand raise on this one. Does anyone know what's different on a number line, for example, on the left side rather than the right? What's different about it? What do we think? Okay, well, that was the first one. This side is, all of them are going to be negatives. Okay,
There's not going to be any fractions for it.
well, that's what we're talking about. There actually are fractions. Okay,
Like an entire number.
yeah. The negative guys, look at our integers, for example. They all have opposites, right? Meaning 2 and negative 2, 9 and negative 9. They're all there's opposites. It's like a mirrored thing over there.
Decimals?
Okay, they're going to have decimals. Okay, let me go ahead and give you guys a hint. When I number this, and I put my lines right here like I did on the other side, so here's negative 1. I'm going to go negative 1/4, negative 2/4, negative 3/4. Andrew, what do you think? That was our first. You're right. The fractions are negatives. Whole numbers and fractions are negatives.
Can you go from your biggest number to least?
If you're numbering it the way I said, okay.
They're not going to be negatives, and between 0 and negative 1, they're still going to be actual, like not negative numbers.
Nope, they're negatives. They're on the negative side. They're negative fractions. Okay? Listen, and when I number this, let me say it again, and I need everyone to calm down with what they're thinking. I need you to listen. If I number this, am I going to number this negative 1/4, negative 2/4, negative 3/4?
It's going to be a fifth.
These are still fourths. Okay? Listen, when you number, here's the other thing. Okay? I'm going to number over here. I numbered left to right, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. On the negative side, I number right to left. Look at our whole numbers. Look at our integers. Negative 1, negative 2. Look which way it's going. Negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. They move the opposite way. So, those are the two differences. One, the left side have all negatives, and yes, even the fractions have negatives. Okay, 2, when we number it, we're going to number the opposite way. So this is not 1/4, it's negative 1/4, but we're starting on the right. This is negative 2/4. This is negative 3/4. Of course, like you guys said, this is 4/4, so in this case, negative 4/4. Okay. Okay, let me ask you this next question. Here's what I want everyone to do. Let's take our number line, let's refold our hamburgers. And I need you guys to take it and place one more fold into it. One more fold.
Hamburger or hot dog?
Hamburger. One more hamburger fold. Thanks for asking. One more hamburger fold. Now, before we unfold it, just some quick educated guesses. When we unfold it, bless you, how many sections are we going to have? We had 4 before.
8.
I have 8. I hear 6. Any others? 10s. Okay, well, let's unfold and check it out. Count the section. You're only unfolding the hamburgers. How many?
8.
8s. So guess what? What's our denominators going to be now? 8s. So when we number it, this is negative 1/8. What used to be negative 1/4 is negative 2/8. The next fold, you're going to need to put a new line, is negative 3/8. The next eighth, right, is negative 4/8, which is equivalent to negative 2/4. The next fold, you need to put a line there, is negative 5/8. The next fold, which is already there, the equivalent fraction is negative 6/8. You need to put a line on the next one, negative 7/8. And of course, this one is negative 8/8. Okay. Okay, before we go, I have two more things to talk to you guys about. One is this. You don't have to do this part, I just want you to watch. What if I'm going to extend my number line past -1?
You're going to open it.
Okay? This was -5/8, -6/8, -7/8, -8/8. What do you think this one's going to be? -5/8, -6/8, -7/8, -8/8, -9/8. What do you think the next one's going to be? -10/8. Ladies and gentlemen, improper fractions. When you go past 1 or -1, that's when we get improper fractions. Now the other thing is this. Look at this. This has another name. We're at the -1, but it is 1/8 past it. This is -1 and 1/8. Look at that. Mixed number and an improper fraction meaning the same thing. This is -1 and
1/8.
2/8.
Oh my bad. And so on is
Okay? Okay, now one last thing. Let's take a look at the number line. Let's look at the blue side first. What's bigger, 5 or 9? 9's larger, right? Let's look at the red side, the negative integers. What's bigger, -5 or -9? Nicely done. You guys have been by far my best class when it comes to that. Remember that anything to the right are greater numbers. So look, what's larger, -3/8 or -3/4? The rules did not change because we're talking about fractions. The right side is bigger, -3/8. Okay? So here's what I'd like you guys to do. This is your tool for your homework. Your homework's just going to ask you stuff about the number line. You could actually take your hole punches out of your number line, place it in your notes, and that will help you on your homework. All right? On page 262.